Going over IRS notice CP60. This is a notice that you might get from the IRS if they misapplied a tax payment. So we'll walk through this. We'll start with the top of the form, and then we'll go to the IRS webpage that might have a little bit more information on what you should do. So let's go ahead and start in the top right corner. So up here, you see the notice number, CP60, the tax year. In this case, it's 2016. The notice date is January 30th. So I always advise people to pay particular attention to the notice date because if the IRS is asking you to take action on something, or if you want to appeal a decision, or if you want to dispute something with the IRS, you usually have a limited number of days from the notice date. So in this case, if you end up having to pay a tax bill, the IRS will say that you generally have 21 calendar days from the notice date to pay the bill. And that's what we see here in this amount due notice. So pay particular attention to the notice date because that's going to be driving the timeline of your next steps. Below the notice date, we have the Social Security number, contact phone number, and then a caller ID field if you need to identify yourself. Over here on the left-hand side, we have the taxpayer name and address. This is usually an artifact that doesn't appear on notices, so I'm not sure what that is. But in this case, John and Mary Smith, they live in Harvard, Texas. So I always advise people on a second thing, which is to keep your address up to date within your IRS records. So normally when you file your annual tax return, if your address has changed, the IRS will update your tax record with your new address. But if you're in between tax returns, then you still should keep your address up to date, and you can do so by either calling the IRS, validating your account information, and changing your address over the phone. So if you're already going to call the IRS, you can do that. Or you can file the official change of address form, which is IRS Form 8822 for individual taxpayers and IRS Form 8822-B for business owners. So those two things, pay attention to your notice date and keep your address up to date. All right, let's take a closer look at what this is telling us. So there's an amount due on the Smith's Form 1040. It is $3,452 even. Apparently the IRS misapplied payments totaling $1,624. So they had to back that out of the existing balance, and now their account is due. So this was the existing balance plus the $1,624, and that totals out to $3,452. So the IRS primary recommendation is to pay your tax bill. That is always going to be the number one thing that the IRS will recommend in the case that a taxpayer has a liability. So if you've previously been notified that the IRS has suspended collection due to financial hardships and your financial situation has not changed, then you don't need to do anything. Otherwise, the IRS kind of gives you some outlines some ways of payment. So you can go to the IRS website, irs.gov/payments, and you can go through checking account debit, which is free of charge. You can go through credit card or debit card through a third-party provider for which there is a charge. Or you can mail a check or a money order with this payment voucher. So you would just cut off the voucher at the bottom, make out a check or a money order payable to the United States Treasury. You should write your Social Security number, the tax year, and the form number on your payment. If you're a business owner, you would write your employer identification number, the tax year, and then whatever that form number happens to be. And then you would mail your payment to the IRS office. I always make it a point that you should use this address for mailing purposes instead of the address that's up on your letterhead. So in this case, they're both at the IRS office in Kansas City, Missouri. However, I have seen notices where the letterhead address is a completely different city and state from the voucher address. So pay attention, and to be honest, just think of this as a good general rule of thumb. Use this address on the payment voucher when you're mailing in a payment. If you're sending in written correspondence with your payment voucher, be sure to include your social security number, tax year, and form number on any of your related correspondence. So on page 2, it gives you some options on how you can call the IRS to dispute your account or to review your account. And then there's more in the way of payment options. So some other payment options, if you're not paying in full, may include things like a payment plan or an installment agreement. You can do simplified installment agreements up to a certain dollar amount on the IRS website. If your tax bill or your outstanding tax liability exceeds a certain threshold, I believe it's $25,000, then you may need to file IRS Form 9465. That's the official form to request an installment agreement. So you can pursue that. Any of the forms that we mentioned in this video, as an aside, we'll put links in the show notes to articles and videos that we've produced about those specific forms. So if you're looking to catch up, don't worry. We'll put resources in the show notes if you need to learn more about a particular form. So on page 3, it gives you some options on how to obtain your current balance account balance. So if you have an IRS online website or online account, you can check that link. Go to irs.gov/balance due. You can also request a copy of your tax transcript by filing IRS Form 4506-T. And that should give you all of your tax information in a very similar manner as if you pulled that info from your account balance online. So that's about it for this. On the notice itself, basically pay this money by this due date to avoid additional interest charges and penalties. So we're going to take a quick step over to the IRS page about this just to see if we had any additional information that might not have been on the notice. So review your notice, pay the amount. If you can't, make arrangements. As an option, if you want someone else like your accountant or an attorney to communicate with the IRS on your behalf, you can authorize them in writing by completing IRS Form 2848, which is the official IRS power of attorney form and a declaration of your representative. And they may have you complete that so that they can get that to the IRS and do everything on your behalf. So a couple of frequently asked questions as well as some tips for next year, but nothing really significant here. Basically, it just says that this notice is to remove a payment that was erroneously applied to your account. So we'll go back here. We'll wrap this video up. Basically, if you receive the CP60 notice, that just means that the IRS misapplied a payment. Pay attention to the amount due. Make that payment. And if you make it in time, you can avoid penalties and interest. So as I mentioned, we'll put links in the show notes to some of the resources we created on the forms mentioned here. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or comments, or if there's another topic that you'd like to see in an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.